All right. Well, it says it's recording. So, uh, good evening. I'm Dale. I thought I'd get on here and give my reflections and a bit of a recap about the game that we played the other day, which is Dark Age of Man. It was a playtest of the game that Jason and I are currently building, and essentially it's completed, but it's going for a beta test. Um, we've released it as far as today. Jason has to the select few within the Dark Age group to play test on their own within their own local groups or either online or what have you. So can't wait for the feedback on that, as well as want to go ahead and say in advance appreciate those that do and whatnot. Especially yesterday, appreciate Todd and Kevin jumping on board and playing with us. What initially started uh, this drive toward doing this type of play, which I think both Jason and I think it's a bit intuitive. This play that we're wanting to support and give people more of a ready access to uh, at the table, which is that is to say more so focused on immersive in the moment role play to where decisions and reactions are done uh, very much in the spur of the moment, as well as it being a live table to where you're playing off of each other in the moment, whether it is from the position of director, which is a traditional GM, or the player. Both are in large part in a naive narrator sense, um, which is to say that you don't really know what's going to happen. Uh, from the position of the director, which is the traditional GM, uh, there are a random seed generator which will be rolled to determine what is going to happen. And then he has to fold that in and work that into any kind of current situation that he's laid out. And everybody at the table knows the context of the world that we're all in. And that's laid out beforehand, their characters, but the, the circumstances, whatever's triggered in that, has to be done on the fly whenever it crops up from a roll, whenever it pops up. Uh, the same way the players respond in kind, the naive narrator director has to work it in. So we knew that, and we knew that both he and I would be able to, from our first game in 2061, we that interplay and that uh, passing the torch back and forth, the narrative torch, and that was very intuitive and easy to do with two people, with both of us in that game. Shortly afterwards, we added another player, which is Donnie, and continued to play. And once she got it, then it was her and I playing off each other, as well as Jason, who was GMing, or he was in the director's seat, but he was playing the NPCs. He was having to jump from NPCs. He was giving the narrative, you know, about the situations and environment and what was happening uh, as well. And we played off of each other. It was great. Played a few other games, but I had never personally played a game with four at the table. There's three active players with a director. And Jason he had ran his local group with three players, and I believe there's a recap up on that. But myself personally had never, got a good report back from him um, on it. But I was kind of curious as to how it would necessarily play out. I think Jason expressed some sense of that he stumbled at the start of this game. Maybe knocking off the rust or just trying to get back in the headspace, what have you, which is understandable. He's dealing with life. right now. Uh, Me, I was more, I guess, of a double mindset. I was kind of, you go in and you want to kind of lead the charge as an example for the others to say, well, this is how it's played. But while us two were kind of fumbling around a bit, it says a lot about the game. I told this to Jason afterwards that really that both Kevin and Todd immediately knew and could pick up on the concept, other than slightly just not wanting to breach etiquette and asked, is this appropriate? But once they got it, which is really rapidly, they rolled with it to surprising results on my end. Um, I think the first time, whenever I was in the boat, and that barge was being loaded up by the soldiery with their horses and whatever was breaking free and coming after us down the river, I had almost, as a character in that mindset, feeling of panic because I know in these situations things are not. You don't really metagame. You don't break out of the situation and look at your character sheet and discern what your options are according to the character sheet, what you can or can't do. You have a feeling, speaking from me and my experience with it, a feeling of immediacy that I know I can envision those guys coming up and coming down the waterway toward us. And I'm like, what are we going to do? So my mind is quickly grasping at anything immediate, not what the character sheet may tell me I could do, but I'm trying to think. It immediately goes to what people may refer to as outside of the box thinking. Well, over there, Kevin is playing Friar and he says, are there sails on this fishing boat? And Jason's like, yeah, they're not unfurled. They're, still. And he's praying for a wind. So he's not consulting a spell list, clerical spell list to see what he's able to do. He's tapping into a supernatural power as deity and asking for aid. A good wind to blow us outside of the reaches of it. And I immediately, in my mind, I see him close his eyes and praying, and I feel the wind coming across when Jason says that, and I'm immediately turning around. I'm keying off of that as a player, and I'm starting to unravel the sail. So it billows out and it catches, and I'm calling to the other ship to do the same. So it's amazing how it to me, it's amazing how it gives you liberty to tap into your surroundings and the immediacy of what's going on, and play off of it, not groping or looking for what you're allowed to do via a character sheet or your skill list or whatever. You really can just dream out loud. Whenever that situation happened, um, we got outside their reach. There was one part where we rolled a 3, and there's a bell curve on the random seed generator, which with 3d6 you go from 3 to 18, right? So the extreme ends are the more hazardous situations that could come up. We rolled a 3, which was essentially a dragon attack, and Jason speaks about this. But the dragon swooped in and came in and grasped the end of the boat. Well, it was the boat Todd's character accident was on. And when this happened, because it had been breathing flame all the way to it got down, we didn't know, what this thing was. None of us had never seen anything like that. It lands. So Todd's like, is the bow coming up from it landing? I mean, it could have picked it up. It could have. Jason's like, yeah. When it lands with the crush, the bow's coming up, and he's going. I'm scampering up to the top, and I'm grabbing the boatman with me and pulling him over the front of the top so he could go over and dive. This is what Todd's attempting to do. This is what his actions are. It's not segmented off in procedural amounts of time. This is what he's trying to do. So Jason can arbitrarily set a difficulty. And it's odd because when you set that difficulty, it's almost innately and intuitive toward the whole table. We know that what he's trying to do, whether it's how much of a amount or span of time, has nothing to do with it. What you're trying to do, if it's multiple things, if he's trying to grab, he could have went over himself. He's trying to grab the guy. So it adjusts the difficulty. Can you do that? So he rolls and he makes it. So he pulls the guy over and they slam into the water. The boat comes back down. It's great. They got lost in the swirling chaos of the river or whatever. We're trying to play on our side. Kevin's in the same boat with me, right? No pun intended. I've got my horse in the boat. It's obviously upset and starting to kick. I'm trying to calm it down, but we need desperately to get to shore. All right. Don't we want to be sitting ducks, as it were. So I tell Kevin's friar, hold these reins. I've got to help the boatman and his son get us to the shore quick. So when I do that, Kevin said he was sitting there thinking about, he had already predetermined that he was going to use that horse as bait to lure this winged beast. My mindset was getting away with that. So I was totally clueless whenever he slapped that horse, goosed it off the edge, and said a little prayer that the dragon would be attracted to it. And it worked. That was him playing off of the situation and what he wanted to do at any time at that moment. And here I am trying to get to the side with the boatman. There was if I fast forward to the combat, the one thing that when we got to the edge there, and the barge finally caught up with us again because we were, had to deal with some difficulties. So it caught up with us, and then they disembarked those 6 riders and was coming down the beach. Now, right before that, the boatman's son had jumped off, and the friar jumped in after him. Well, they went to the closest edge, was the other side. So I'd taken our ship to make a catch-all in case they're coming down and try to pick them up, or at least hit the bank so they could get to us, right? The other ship where Todd was on, the other fishing vessel, stopped on the other bank where the barge was offloading the soldiers. Yeah, they were coming down there. We were trying to get to that bank too to pick up Axton, which is Todd's character. And Todd had ran off with the boatman that was on his ship too. They split. They were being chased down by 2 horsemen. This is an example about the immediacy of combat that you feel when you're in it. At least from my perspective, watching it go down with Todd. Todd's character Axton, and he's being chased down immediately. He's looking for some kind of cover or some hide from them. He fills that role. They're right up. They're nipping on his heels, right? They split up. That one guy's after him. Almost there, Todd has a spear and a shield, and he turns around and he hurls a spear at him, and he's starting to charge. Well, it's not a successful roll in what you're attempting to do. So Jason goes wide, but it's close enough to the horse to where Jason adjudicates that the horse rears up a little bit, but the rider doesn't spill and hurt himself. He just slides off and pulls out his sword, right? Well, the horse cancers off, and then, but Todd's character's already in a charge, right? What is he going to do? He's already in charge. You can almost feel, and it's palpable the way things are, unfolding in front of us. And Todd comes up with the shield. He's trying to ram it up at him, buffet him, knock him down, hit him, and he fails that. So when he does, the narration then switch, the torch is passed. When you just roll that roll, it cues you where the narrative is heading. and it was back into Jason's lap, who was narrating the NPC. So what had happened, how things go awry is Todd's character goes right past him, and Jason narrates that the sword hits his side, almost like Todd was just running alongside the sword, right? So he takes a wound. Todd lunges for the, I'm trying to recollect exactly, but he lunges for the spear. He gets that, but he's nicked again. Yeah, can't get it successfully away from the guy. So he's taken a few wounds. And he looks up and he thinks, what is he going to do? You know, this guy's really just tearing him and tearing into him, as well as, you know, calling at him, you know, the great axe. And he knows him for some reason. And Todd lunges further. He goes after the horse, you know, and then he gets on the horse, wheels the horse around to make a charge because he's got a spear in his hand. He does hit the guy, comes back around to hit him again, and it doesn't work out so well. And he gets, the sword goes right up into his ribs as he's passing by. So then he's down. There is, you know, when we were trying to get to that bank, and I jumped off that ship, and Todd's running away, and I'm calling for him, and you can hear the echo. While all of that is going on with Todd, we're having to deal with the horsemen that come to the bank. Kevin and I are in a situation where we're fighting for our lives too. The friar. You know, when he jumped out, he took his pole that we'd use in the boat and uses it, wanted to prop it up and then almost joust to unseat the rider that was bearing down on us. And it's a success. You know, it's a difficult maneuver, but he still pulled it off. So luck or fate, or, you know, whether, the deity was giving him a little bit of a nudge, it happened. So this is what is occurring in front of us. It is what's happening. It is truths are being revealed, you know, on both sides and amongst all of us. And it's almost like hitting when you're playing this way, because there's no turns or no procedure. It's your turn. You know, it's a narration where things are happening, and it's almost like a band. When you play together, you get a sense for timing, for pace. When you interject, is all of this is happening and it's being revealed in the moment. So there's very much a sense of things are happening now. And what we want to do is have somebody react very immediate and primal. And what would you do? So it's a different sensation than pulling out, say, in a typical OSR or traditional, more or less, and then seeing what you have, what your options are, and what your modifiers, and weighing your probability for success, and deciding, looking at a list of what your skills are and seeing which one you want to apply to that situation. This is more of intuitive, from the gut, immersive. What am I going to do now? Like I referenced back to when that barge was going down, and I had played before. It's almost I anticipated, a little anxiousness. Oh crap, what are we going to do now? So I'm thinking about immediately. I'm looking at the two kids in these boats. I'm looking at the friar here. I'm looking at that. What is going to happen? So there's a definite sense of anxiety that may set in a little bit more so than, I've experienced, we all experience play in different levels, but we're trying to heighten that immediate decision making. Things are alive. It's not a turn-based RPG. It's definitely in the moment. So, that sense of timing you got, and the social etiquette, nobody really breaches it. This was I was glad to see. Everybody, at least from my vantage point, being involved, it felt to me that everybody being involved knew when it was appropriate to say what they had to say and the amount of time that it would have passed in game, it feels live, it's going on. So you say what you want to say when it's appropriate. You feel an urgency to do something, reactionary even. If you can almost a communal mind's eyes playing out, the theater of the mind's eyes playing out right in front of everybody. So if I know somebody's bearing down on a comrade of mine, I feel an urgency to get over there to protect him because it's being played out right in front of me. So if you want to interject, you interject and you start your movement from there because it is essentially live. And that, I wouldn't give anything for that experience and what it affords to me when I'm playing, because I get over there. If I let time pass in the moment, it's so odd because nobody's overshouting or stumbling. There's the etiquette, the social etiquette that happens is people say what they're doing. The naive narrator director position is in the shoes of the NPCs. He's responding in kind. There's an interplay back and forth. A dynamic is reached. The pacing is good. If I want to interject that I'm going to do something in there, it's whenever we're doing this, there's a communal plausibility that if something seems far and out of reach, now nobody wants to purposely, nobody fully immersed or invested wants to purposely break immersion by doing something that isn't plausible. So when you're everybody's part of this communal theater of the mind that's building right in front of each other. It's like you can almost, and everybody, don't get me wrong, everybody in the OSR, everybody envisions what's going on in their own mindset. Everybody has a different vision. If you play in a game, you can be envisioning it happening one way, and the other guy's gonna be envisioning it happen a little bit different. But if you can harmonize by keeping it live, in my estimation, there is more of a harmony, and things become a little bit more in sync and on the same page and being revealed in the same moments, in the same timing. And that's something that really, that's what I feel that we're pushing for. And, for that investment and that immersion and to heighten it and really keep any kind of rules, like I said, invisible under the hood, as I like to call it. And generally, as far as the play we've had, nobody's really stepped out of etiquette. I think even people maybe are too worried about if they're stepping on anybody's toes or the naive narrative director's toes, the GM, or other players. But once you get to play, and it's like a band is playing together, everybody's hitting their parts and doing their thing and playing off of each other, and you get a feel for it, and it builds a rhythm. So that to me is what's essentially important. And I think that as human beings, we can all kind of, fit together and do that at a table in a role-playing atmosphere. And so far, it's proving viable, and even more so. So I'm delighted with that. I know I've rambled on for a while here, but definitely we went on to the next phase of releasing it in a beta form for people within the group to pick up and play in their own local groups or online or whatever, facilitate games, whether with us or without. And we'll get some feedback on that. And in advance, appreciate anybody who does, within the group, gives us some solid feedback and plays with us, and we'll tweak it, or take stuff out that isn't needed. And it's been a great experience. You know, it's a role play experience, as we say, not necessarily a gamified experience. So, but anyway, I'll let you go, and enjoyed your recap and reflection, Jason. And welcome anybody else who wants to pitch in. All right. Anyway, y'all have a nice night. Talk to you later.